Hello there and welcome back to Bullets for Bucks. Hope you're enjoying the channel thus far. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you like the content. Now today I'm going to show you how to properly sight in a bolt action rifle. So we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, the way I do all my rifles. And we're going to use this Savage Axis here that I just did a video review on, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. And we're going to start at 100 yards. Now, how we're going to do this is that we're going to remove the bolt from the receiver. Now on a Savage, it's different than most of my rifles. You're going to make sure it's safe and empty, okay? Confirm physically that it's safe and empty. Then you're going to take the safety, in this case it's a tang safety, you're going to push it forward so that it is on fire. Suppress the trigger because this is a Savage. Depress the bolt release. Remove the bolt from the receiver, and you're going to have it on basically a rear rest, something like this. You can pick those up pretty much anywhere, and a front rest, I'll show you guys right here, something like that. Or you can just use a bunch of sacks of rice or beans, anything that you have on hand that makes a good solid steady rest. You're going to point the rifle down towards your target. Now it is best to start at 50 yards, but because I've done this many times, I start at 100 yards. Now, I recommend starting at 50 yards, and remember that most scopes are MOA, so what that means is they're 1/4 inch of movement at 100 yards. Well, at 50 yards, it'll be 2 clicks to be 1/4 inch. At 100 yards, it's 1 click to be 1/4 inch. So keep that in mind if you start sighting in at 50 yards. To move 1/4 inch, you're going to want to go 2 clicks. At 100 yards, you go 1 click to move 1/4 inch, and we'll get more into that later. But anyhow, we've removed the bolt from the receiver. You can use a lead sled for this, but I actually prefer not to use a lead sled because I just don't find that it's replicatable in the field when shooting, and so I just stay away from them altogether. But for sighting in, you can use a lead sled. You're going to come up behind the rifle, and using your dominant eye, you're going to adjust. You're going to look right down the bore of the rifle, okay? And you're going to adjust the rear of the rifle to move your elevation until you get right on your target, okay? And using little movements, you're going to keep adjusting that rifle right to left and up and down using the rests until you have that bore completely centered on the target. So you'll be looking down the bore of the rifle, and you want to make sure, using kind of like that halo effect as you're looking down, to center it perfectly on the target. Now take your time doing this, because if you do it right, you should hit the target and be on paper within the first shot. All right, so now you've adjusted it so that it's perfectly centered on the target by looking down the bore of the barrel and using the bore of the barrel as your sight, so to speak. Now you're going to come up here and you're going to remove the caps if you have cap turrets, or if you have tactical turrets, of course you won't have to. You're going to look down the scope, of course making sure that your bore is still centered on the target. Then you look through the scope and you're going to make adjustments in the scope until it's centered perfectly on that piece of paper on the target. Now take your time doing this so that you get it right. You're not in a rush. You don't need to be in a rush. All right, and another thing to remember is do this with your magnification on the highest setting possible so that you get better accuracy on your first shot. All right, now get nice and comfortable. Get a decent cheek weld. Get yourself on target here. And you're just going to aim right in the center. So I'm going to actually be aiming right in the center of both my targets because I put up 2. Tip is, if you start at 100 yards, start with 2 really big targets. That way for sure you're on paper on the first shot. If you're at 50 yards, go ahead and start with 1 big target. But I like to start with 2, and I'm going to aim actually in the center of the 2 targets. All right, so that first shot is about 6 or 7 inches left and 3 or 4 inches low. Now this scope is only a 3 to 9, so at 100 yards, I actually am having a tough time seeing exactly where that shot is as far as how many inches. But 6 or 7 inches left, so we need to go right, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to say 6 inches, so 6 times 4 is 24, so we're going to go 24 clicks right, okay? So 24 clicks right will be how many inches? Each click is a 1/4 inch. That's 6 inches. Okay. Then we're going to go about 3 inches high. We're going to adjust 3 inches up, or 3 inches in elevation, to get us close to 0. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to adjust how many clicks? Remember, 1/4 inch at 100 yards is 1 click. So 3 times 4 is 12 clicks. At 50 yards, it would be 24 clicks. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. So now that we've taken that first shot at 100 yards, and then we've adjusted off of that so many 1/4 inches or clicks using an MOA scope, we're going to take a 3-shot group and see where we're at, and then we'll probably make a correction based off that 3-shot group unless we're real lucky and we're dead on. Got a bunch of rain. It's about 45 degrees, kind of windy, not great weather to be out here shooting. It's dumping down rain all of a sudden now, but we'll get this done. Gotta train like you fight, right? You're not gonna be hunting in sunshine all the time. Oh, pretty much dead center. Looks like we're dead on, folks. I mean, that could not be hardly, I mean, that's barely off center there. And for a budget rifle like this, shooting factory ammunition with a cheap scope on it, looks like we might be a touch high, but that could just be human error. Alright, so I pulled that last one pretty bad. We're probably looking at about 1.5 inch group, but that first shot was dead center. Second shot a little high, third shot a little low. Probably combination of being a sub $300 rifle and cheap factory ammunition and just me jerking or flinching there. So it looks like we're pretty much zeroed. You know, after I shoot this rifle more, if I find out that I'm getting tighter groups with a different ammunition and I'm maybe off by a 1/2 inch, I'll just make 2 clicks or a 1/2 inch of adjustment to just get it right on. But for what it is today, we're going to call that good. So that, folks, is the proper way to sight in a rifle. Like I said, yes, that group is not that great, and we are getting dumped on with rain right now. But hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you were able to learn something. And it's not hard to sight in a rifle. Make sure you have your scope base and your scope rings on tight and properly torqued to specs. And make sure you get a quality scope. I actually do not recommend this scope. It's not really that much of a quality scope. I had this scope brand new laying around, and I had these rings and all that just laying around, so I just used it for this cheap truck gun sort of throw together thing here. So not really what I would recommend, but here we are. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, like and subscribe below, and leave me a comment if you have any recommendations, or if you sight in your rifle a different way. Go ahead and let me know how you do that. I'd be interested in knowing any tips and tricks you might have.